Right, so welcome. I'll take over Keith's kind of on client site. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We've got a great turnout this evening. Lovely to see everyone's cameras on as well. We always appreciate that. We've got some lovely speakers here for you tonight. And we'll just go through the welcome slides here. So code of conduct, standard, we are all grown-ups and know how to behave. If anyone has any problems, then come and speak to me and Keith, but we'll keep an eye on the chat and keep it respectful. That's that bit done. And then okay, yeah, so speakers tonight, Neil and Adrian are going to start us off, if that works for you guys, about how will AI and Plan Designer change Power Platform development. We have a brand new speaker. If we can have some love for Heather, from Delivery Room to Dataverse. So as someone who works in the career space, I get asked so often about career switching. How do I get into this thing? So this is going to be a really valuable, sorry, Cheryl Netley, perfect timing. This is going to be a really valuable session, so I'm excited about that. And then me and Franco are going to talk to you about freelancing. Anyone who is concerned about career security or, taking that leap, hopefully we'll give you some good advice on where to get started. So without further ado, we're going to try and keep it prompt, keep interactive in the chat. Hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A as well. But if I can hand over to Neil and Adrian to start their session, that'd be great. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Just double check. You can see the screen. You can see the slide.
Yes.
Get a few nods. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So what we're going to cover today is AI and Plan Designer. But Neil knows I sometimes go a little bit off piste, and time permitting, we might do a little bit of a demo of Gen Pages. And time permitting, I might do a little bit of demo of vibe.powerapps.com as well, because it's all coming together. When I say demo, I'm not that bold. I've recorded videos of it. So I do know that it'll run, and I do know it'll run in about 3 minutes. But anyway, by the by, let me just do a quick intro, and then I'll get Neil to do an intro as well. So my name's Adrian. I'm Head of Solution Architecture at Enhance. And we at Enhance, we specialise in D365 customer engagement and Business Central for non-profits. I've got a few badges. I'm sure there's a lot of people on calls with a lot of the badges as well. But yeah, I like to learn. I like to get involved in the community. And I work with Neil and another chap called Summit, running the Southwest D365 Power Platform user group as well. Hand over to you, Neil.
Thanks, Adrian. So I'm Neil Rowlands, Power Platform Architect at the IPO, so colleague of Heather and Ali and Shell and Laura, former colleague of Ankit. So yeah, a few badges for me as well, and yeah, co-host of D365 Power Platform User Group Southwest with Adrian Summit, and co-host of Power Platform User Group Wales with Di, and Jesse and sometimes Amber as well from the IPO, and also freelance consultant trainer outside of that. Next slide. Right, today we're going to walk you through our opinions, professional opinions on how Plan Designer, Gen Pages and vibe.powerapps.com is changing our jobs. Next slide. So we're not going to focus too much on agents and co-pilots. Lots of people talking about that. We're going to focus on Power Platform. I'll give a bit of historical context and hand over to Adrian to share not just what these things are, but what he thinks about when he's actually using them as a solution architect. We've got a couple of questions to get your thoughts, and we'd like you to all to contribute in the chat. There's a lot of people here who are very, very experienced, and we want to get your insight as well. I'll then walk you through what Plans does and doesn't do and how it impacts our roles, and again some questions, and then hand back to Adrian to talk about handling challenges from clients, opportunities and playbook. Next slide. Okay, so we're basing this on 2025 release Wave 2. It's the first week of February, so if anybody's watching on catch up, then the product may have changed since we recorded this. And the top line summary is this is vibe coding in Power Platform. Lots of companies, lots of technologies are adopting vibe coding. Microsoft is a little bit late to the party, but catching up quickly. So we're all aware that the type of devices that we have and how we use them has changed dramatically over the last couple of generations. Devices have got miniaturized, personalized. Going back 20 years, if we wanted to take a holiday, we might have gone to a travel agent and we'd have given them some requirements, our budget, where we're looking to go, how many people. The travel agent would do some research and then have a conversation back to us. We'd then instruct them, they would book it, we'd pay for it. A year ago, when Plans was launched on the front page of make.powerapps.com, our portal, I thought, have I become a travel agent? Have Microsoft made me and many other people effectively redundant? Perhaps not, as we'll see. Change is the nature of technology, and I'd kind of forgotten actually that the job of technology is to transform. When we look at other Microsoft technologies, for example, things that we do in Dataverse, building model-driven apps, used to be done in Access. Things that we do in Canvas apps, using Power Effects to build highly customized user interfaces, used to be done in VBA in Excel. Power BI has taken over from Tableau as the global leader in business intelligence tools, simply because it's a Microsoft product. Okay. Whereas Power Platform hasn't really changed all that much in the 5-6 years that I've been using it. There have been iterative improvements. Model-driven apps, Canvas apps have got a bit more reliable, a new look and feel. Power Automate has got a new front interface. Nothing's really been disruptive as this new introduction of vibe coding. And we also seen since the lockdowns, there's a very clear split in the jobs market. Some people are able to have to go out to work, and some people like us have the comfort of being able to work from home from time to time. The people who have to go out to work, they've got very little control, very little autonomy over the type of work they do. So actually, we're quite fortunate to work in this tech space, with relatively good salaries and lots of opportunities, and we've got the time and the experience and the skills to change how we work, so we can continue with those conditions. Over to you, Adrian.
Thank you, Neil. So just before I jump into a couple of demos, just going to give a couple of updates as well. So this is a little sort of surreptitious change. Plan Designer at some point round about November got renamed Plans, or Plans for short, Plans in Power Apps. So just bear that in mind, because as we all know, Microsoft like to use the same names for the same things or rename things. So finding documentation on Plan Designer is a little bit challenging because of name change. And then there's a couple of other updates here which sort of caught Neil and I a little bit on the back foot, because we presented this talk at the London User Group back in end of November, I think it was, Neil, wasn't it? Or maybe early December. The situation's changing quite rapidly. So on 5th of November last year, generative pages, what I'm going to show you in a moment, that became generally available. It reached that GA tag in the States. And then, I hope these different teams speak to each other, but literally 2 weeks later, Ryan Cunningham made an announcement at Microsoft Ignite on the 18th of November that vibe.powerapps.com was coming out as well. So all of these tools, they all seem to interrelate. They seem a little bit disparate at the moment, and we'll have a look at that in the demo. But yeah, just bearing in mind, I appreciate now it's literally just turned February. There didn't seem to be any massive announcements December, January, but I'm still expecting this to be an evolving situation. So just keep an eye on the updates, keep an eye on the articles from Microsoft, because it's changing all the time. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just going to go through a couple of, hopefully time permitting, 3 quick demos, recorded videos, but I'll talk you through them as we're looking at them. So first thing I'm going to show you is Plans, okay, or Plan Design becoming Plans. what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a prompt into that plan. So a lot of us have been going into make.powerapps.com. You see the banner, you see let's make a plan, you quickly move away from that because it's all a bit scary and AI driven, and we jump over into our solutions where we build things properly, right? But what I thought would do is just put in a relatively well structured prompt. So I'm using something here called GCSE. So anybody who has did their secondary education in the UK, you probably still have nightmares about this. I know I do, about the General Certificate of Secondary Education, was it? Something like that. So it's what we all do when we go through 16, 17 years old at secondary school. But anyway, in this context, it is goal, context, source, and expectation. So I've got a relatively well structured prompt that I'm going to pop into my plan designer. And like I say, I've recorded these just so it can quickly rattle through them, and I'm not sat there watching little spinny discs and getting embarrassed in front of everybody as I try to demo stuff live. Okay, so I'm putting that prompt in, goal, context, source, and expectation. And in the scenario here, it is a little bit of a sort of generic example. It's a travel request system. Okay, so I want to build an app that is going to track employee travel requests. Once I kick that off into the plan designer, it starts going through that prompt. And what you can see here on the screen is I've actually got these different agents working with me. So this is some of that agentic AI that we hear about. So requirements agent, process agent, data agent, solution agent are all individual agents that are working to do their own little thing in terms of that task. So much as, maybe back to Neil's example of the travel agent, it might have been different people, looking at the flights for Neil, looking at the hotel for Neil, working out what his itinerary is and so on. What I've got here is different agents doing very specific elements of building out the plan for me. The first thing it does is it's rattled through based on my prompt what the different personas might be. So the requirements agent has worked out who the different people, who the different personas might be within my requirement. Each time it moves on to the next agent, I get the opportunity to refine the details that it's come up with. So there is an element of inference from each of the agents. If it gets something wrong, you can go back to the prompt and you interact with it in a natural language way. So if I don't like something, I want to change something, I tell it, please don't use finance admin, use a travel request administrator as a role, and it'll go and recalculate what it needs to build. Okay. Once a requirement agent's done its thing, it starts coming up with the process agent. So it designs out the different processes, again, that it's inferring from the different personas I've given it. Once I'm happy with that, and in this demo, apart from sort of tweaking a couple of names, I've just said looks good each time, looks good. But I can amend the data model if I want. So it goes off and works out what the data model is. And then with that one, sorry, just hit, somebody popped up there, let go of it. Once we're happy with that, I can refine it as well. So I might say here, actually come up and give me a table for clients. Now, this is fantastic. So recorded video for demo. So my demo didn't hang and the recorded video has hung. It's like literally there are demo gods out there I didn't sacrifice to. I've never seen that before. Right, let me just see if I can jump ahead. Okay, so for some reason it glitched there, never mind. So sorry, data agent, I gave it a little bit of a tweak to the prompt and said, have a new table for clients. It built an account, and then it goes off and starts coming up with the processes as well. So it designs what tools we need within Power Platform for that process. Okay, and it thinks that maybe we need a model-driven app for the central travel administration. Maybe it needs a Canvas app, maybe it needs a Power Automate flow as well. So it builds those out, and you can take it a little bit further. At this point, Plan Designer sort of offloads to what you might have seen when you build your first Canvas app out, and it says, do you want to build a 3-screen Canvas app? And you get really excited, and then it's really like the first noddy Canvas app that you might ever build. Okay, so it's just a sort of gallery and a form, and it doesn't really do much. But what is, I think, very powerful around Plan Designer is that you can use it to help you if you've got some rough requirements from a client, from a project. You can feed those in and it starts giving you extra ideas. So one of the things I've used it for is, based on some high level requirements, let it run through, let it come up with the personas, let it come up with the data model, and then go back to the people who are asking for this solution to be built and say, oh, you know, have you got these other roles, and you know, within your organization, and do they have a requirement to use this app as well? Do we need to get some requirements from these people? Quite often clients are saying, oh yeah, we do have a sort of, you know, a travel department or something. Didn't think to mention it at the time when you came in to do the scoping or whatever. So you can use it that way, and you can also use it to maybe mock up an app, as we're seeing on the screen, and say, okay, this is what a standard Canvas app looks like. Is that going to be acceptable? Do you want more UI refinement? Or even, is this the process that you use? Is this the data model that you use? Do you think there are any fields missing? So you can certainly use them for requirements capture, for proof of concepts, I think, but also as a sort of, almost like a sort of aid memoir. If you think about peer programming, you can use it as a way of just making sure that you've covered off various different areas that you might want to ask questions about. Okay. Just going to move on to another quick demo. This one's just, I think, less than 2 minutes. Again, using that structure of GCSE, so goal, context, source, and expectation. What I'm using is another tool here called Gen Pages. I'm following on from that Plan Designer example, and I'm saying, actually, what I want Generative Pages to build is a single page application, again, to do with travel requests. Okay, so I can come into that initial model driven app, and I can say, build me that first page. So I'm going to have to oh no, we're going for it. We are going for it. Okay, cool. So with this one, you actually go into the model driven app where you want your single page application to exist. You do add page, you do describe a page, and then we get to that sort of similar look and feel where you start interacting with this text area and say, okay, this is what I want to use to build out my app. And then Generative Pages, some of you would have seen this demo before, basically just goes off and starts building out all of this React code for us based on the prompt that I've given it. Okay, it rattles through quite quickly. This takes about a minute or so and generates a few hundred lines of code. So at this point, I have to put my hands up and go, I don't really understand what the code's doing, to be honest. That, I think, is one of the challenges that we'll see the same in vibe.powerapps.com. It is spewing this stuff out. I don't have the experience in React code to know whether it's good code or not. So that's a challenge for us, or certainly for me going forward. If people are using these tools, how do we peer review it? How do we quality control it? How do we make sure it's doing what we wanted it to do? And then even more so, how do we make changes to it, unless we're going to use those tools to make the changes? Okay, and then the last little demo I've got, that same prompt I've now put into vibe.powerapps.com. Okay, just for the prompt from the Generative Pages one, I haven't given it any context in terms of the previous prompt in Generative Pages, and this does all of that we've just seen. This seems to be the culmination of both plans and Generative Pages added into one thing. So just off the basis of a prompt and strangely, there's little interaction at this point with me as a user. It just goes through all those agents. There's not a stepping. There's not a bit, it doesn't do the requirements and wait for feedback, move on to the data, wait for feedback. It just goes from agent to agent to agent to agent and ends up with an app. In about 2 minutes, based on the prompt that I gave it, it builds the requirements out, it builds the data model out, it builds a application out that I can then preview and start playing with. And I hate to say it, but the application looks really nice as well. So it builds some good content from a UI and end user perspective. I think it looks really good. Again, I'm not I didn't come up through the ranks as a developer. I was more sort of implementation consultant and so on. So I can't dig into the back end of this and go, yeah, that's very good quality code. I'd need somebody with a development background to be able to do that. But you can see here, this is a live recording. This isn't sped up in any way. So in about 2 minutes, based on that prompt, it's built an app, built the data model. I can interact with that app. I can click through the screens. I can go and look at the data. It's fabricated test data for me. It's got a little change button. It pops up with an approved decline box, all the rest of it. So from my perspective, again, it looks super powerful. I'm a little bit scared, to be honest. But I think there are things that we can use it for today in terms of, again, prototypes, making sure we're getting requirements and so on. But I have some reservations about where this, where we can use it and whether or not, I can actually move this forward into a live scenario. So at that point, Neil has put the question into the chat. So I don't know how we want to do this now, because I don't think we've got a sort of polling. I guess we could use our little reactions, actually, couldn't we, on the on Teams, if you've got that. So I'm going to suggest if people think that there is going to be an impact, then maybe do a thumbs up reaction. And I'd say if you disagree, maybe use surprised, and I'm gonna be surprised if anybody uses the surprised, but it's an open forum. Awesome. So lots of people thinking it may well have an impact in the next sort of couple of years on what they're doing. Okay. Next question we have for you is who thinks they're going to need to adapt. So we could just go down we're not making any changes, I'm just going to stick to what I do. Or do we think that it's going to affect our role and we're going to have to adapt, dare I say it, to stay in the workforce? Yeah, lots of thumbs up on that one as well. Okay, so we've got some challenging. Last question, I guess, from me. Who's even slightly concerned? I'll be honest, I'm worried. I have some big concerns. I think I can adapt. I think I'm adaptable, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see who's a little bit concerned on it. Great stuff. So just scrolling back to a previous question, Alex. I don't know when it's GA in the UK and other regions at the moment. I couldn't find an update on that. So if anybody does know when these things are going to be GA, that'd be useful. Okay, cool. Let's just move on. Over to you now.
Yeah, let's unpack what this means. So like anything that's generative AI, it's non-deterministic. Now, if I have a team of developers and I give the same task to the same developer several times or different developers, I'll expect reasonably the same output. But with Gen AI, it doesn't work like that. In the real world, we might say that person we give them the task to is perhaps unpredictable, but in AI, we say it's non-deterministic. So how do we manage that going forward? It's prompt-based, so we interact with like a conversation. So Adrian's prompt that he shared with us, he didn't write that in one go. He iterated that over a period of time to get an output of suitable quality for what he wanted. So we interact with it like a conversation. Ed made a point in the chat earlier that we can use Copilot, so M365 Copilot work, to generate and refine our requirements, and then we feed that into plans. Then we have AI helping to feed AI. How do we manage that? So we have a change in interface. So whereas we've point and clicked, moused around the screen, now we then moving to a chat-based interface. Curiously, this will actually be really productive for people who might have motor controls, actually, because they can then just voice control their computer even more. So for me, the main thing that generative AI has is that it doesn't sleep. It's read the entire web and is going to continue reading that. Me, after I finish here, I'm going to have a beer, relax, do other things. Gen AI doesn't do that. But what we all know with Gen AI, that the quality of the work that it produces can be questionable. Going back to the example that Adrian showed earlier, if we now have to peer review, proofread, 100 pages of React code, really this is transferring responsibility onto us to make sure it's right. And that's still going to require significant time investment from us. It's just going to change where we do that, where we put that time in. What it does do is it removes the monotony of creating tables, columns, etc. When we build our first few model-driven apps, that's quite exciting. But once we build 10, then it gets a bit repetitive. So we can greatly accelerate that. And the question then becomes is how do we use that time after that we gain? So we can create a proof of concept within a few minutes. And one of the main selling features with this is we can actually sit down with the user to build out several different proof of concepts over the course of the morning to check and test our data model before we then build something out for real. So we can do sort of live business analysis with some of our key users. At the moment, it can't be turned off. So within Power Platform Admin Center, there's lots of controls to tweak for our particular tenant or environment. There's features that can turn off parts of Copilot, but there's nothing I've seen so far to disable vibe.powerapps.com, but organizations may URL block it if they feel that this is too risky for them. Next slide. Briefly, limitations. Environments can be with Dataverse or without Dataverse. This has to be Dataverse because everything is stored within Dataverse under the bonnet, and therefore that also impacts our capacity as well, which is driven by Azure OpenAI service. If we use it extensively, we may get usage limits or capacity throttled, and the current restriction is maximum input size of 4,000 tokens, so around 3,000 words. Next slide. Okay, what doesn't it do? So within the IPO, I've spent a lot of time over the last year training people in Power Platform and Power BI. So people join an Introduction to Power Platform course. Within one day, they learn they build 2 tables, some views, some forms, a model-driven app on top of that, a very quick Canvas app, and a very quick Power Automate flow. For those that want to go further, then I offer an intermediate Dataverse course. And in this, we kind of go through all the things that may be undocumented or aren't really covered on MS Learn, things that make a model-driven app really shine and make it effective for our user. All these kind of things I got listed here, Plans doesn't do. So even if we use Plans to start something, from perspective of our users, it is not going to complete it. We still need to take what Plans has produced and then make it effective and usable. Okay, next slide. That's technically what it doesn't do. That may change. Okay, what it won't do next year or the years after, these kind of things, which are soft skills based. So a lot of the things I've been doing over the past year are kind of hands-off technical, but working directly with people. AI, no kind of technology can lead a virtual meetup like this or train people how to use things. It can't build relationships between people. If we're working on a project and there's key decisions that need to be made. It can't help our stakeholders understand what the actual decision that needs to be made is. We can have this or you can have that, but you can't have both. And it's got no contextual awareness. It is simply just generating text, basically. So it doesn't know what's right for our team, our organization, our projects. So if we are concerned by AI and we want to have an AI-proof career, it's these kind of things I'd suggest that we lean into. I'm fortunate in that my role has allowed me to do that. Some of you maybe think, well, actually, I'm kind of hands-on. I don't really have that opportunity. But there are still things that we can do. We could set up a monthly or quarterly community of practice. We could offer upskilling sessions to our colleagues. So there will be opportunities to develop and practice our soft skills, which will ensure we remain employable for a long period of time. Next slide. Okay, a couple of things that we don't know. We've seen with Power Automate, it's a 10-year-old technology. It had a facelift a couple of years ago, but it's still the same frustrating, clunky kind of product. Is Vibe going to be like this? i.e. it allows us to work with simple use cases and only take them so far? Or are Microsoft going to go all in on this, listen to community feedback and build something that's going to have real-world application? Do our employers or clients want to have code that's been created by AI deployed to production, deployed to live? What happens going forward a few years? So new generations are coming into Power Platform. If they're then learning Vibe first tools and they haven't gone through that little apprenticeship of creating the columns, tables, relationships, Canvas apps themselves. So what will happen when we have to maintain or iterate those products? And then taking a step back, if there's pushback within our organization or within our country in the future on Gen AI tools, if we've made our skill set dependent on using them and they're restricted from using them, what are we going to fall back onto? Next slide, and now we've got some questions. Yes. Oh, no, almost. So how is this going to affect us? So this is going to lead to faster, more efficient development. We can build something quicker, but we can't necessarily build it better. In order to develop the right thing, we need to ask the right questions of the business. So what we'd recommend is the time that you save on the actual building, on that quick start, invest that in putting time in with your super users to find out what they need to ensure we're meeting their requirements. So we're focusing on the human side of development. Also, so if I'm working in the same team as Heather and Ali and we want to build something, at the moment there's not a way to share a set of development standards, how our team does things across Vibe or plans. So how do we ensure that we're producing work to the same standard? Also, if we're going to be using this, then we should tell our clients or the other people who are using this that we have adopted Gen AI, because if we don't do this and then people find out later on, then we may kind of get caught out. They may think we've been using it, taking shortcuts unnecessarily. Great, next slide, and now we have some questions. Okay. So would you deploy an AI created app to production? Thank you, Adrian. If you think you would, put a thumbs up. That'll allow us to actually count how many people would. And it looks like it's an empty silence. So not many people would actually want to use this production-wise. Okay. Yeah. Or maybe Emma might. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Cool. So in the chat, yeah, talk about that and discuss why you perhaps wouldn't feel ready doing that yet. We'll go to the next question. Okay, yeah, so are you using plans for real-world development? So do you have a real-world business use case that you're using this for, or is it just kind of personal learning at the moment? So if you're using it for real world, pop a thumbs up.
Mainly thumbs down in there now.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So similar to what we had in the Bristol years ago. Okay, people think it's interesting, but they're not necessarily using it real world, although I can see that Emma definitely does want to use this. Great. Thank you. Keep the interaction going. And now handing back to Adrian.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, just a few more slides just to go through, just a few ideas, and these are just very much sort of ideas and things I think that we as a community need to look out for. So, as I mentioned earlier, you know, Neil and I work at different organisations. I work primarily with external clients. Neil works primarily with internal clients, but ultimately they're all our customers, right? And every stakeholder, whether they're internal or external teams, deserves the same level of attention and service. But when you think about all these stakeholders as customers, these tools are out there. Maybe the Microsoft ones are sort of less publicly known, if you like, than, you know, sort of I don't know, ChatGPT and things like that. But you know, the AI tools are becoming more and more familiar to people, and I think it's going to mean that our customers, internal or external, are going to have, dare I say, even higher expectations of us. So they're going to expect faster delivery because, you know, I can just knock an app up over the weekend. Why do I need, you know, a 6-month project to build the app? I've already built a prototype, right? So we're going to get challenges around that. We're going to get challenges, I think, in terms of expectations of quality. So if this app is built through something that harnesses all the information out there in the world, you know, in the internet, then it should theoretically be of much higher quality because it can learn from, you know, previous bugs that have been raised, previous, I don't know, data breach issues or whatever. So quality should be baked in. But also, I think clients expect predictability, and that comes back to sort of part of the challenges that Neil mentioned, in that this is non-deterministic. You can get different results. When I recorded those demos, I did it a few times, mainly because I'm not very good at recording demos, but I used the same prompt and I got different results. So as an example, on the generative pages piece, sometimes a little pop-up worked when I hovered and clicked on a row, sometimes it didn't. So you get different results coming out of it because it is this generative, it is leveraging a generative AI platform. So there's some things to watch out there for. I think there's some things that as a community we need to get our heads around in terms of how do we answer this both to internal and to external clients, because the tools are, as I say, they're out there, they're available, and people will be playing with them before they come to us for a requirement for a build. One of the things that I think that we can look at ourselves is looking at these tools as additional team members. So, you know, I'm sure we all work in teams with different people, different characteristics of those people, different skill sets. And it's really looking at these and saying, okay, they're not, these new team members are not going to necessarily replace us, but we can leverage some of the things that they're good at to help us in our own roles. So as I mentioned, you know, just being able to put in a prompt off of maybe some loosely formed business requirements. So you might get a almost like a sort of proposal request from a quote from a potential client. You can put that in and use it to come up with some questions, or maybe to mock up some screens or something like that. So we can leverage the tools to speed up certain bits of the work without necessarily taking that app and put it into production. Okay. I think there's still a lot of questions that we need to ask, even if we do get to the point where we can start using these tools. So it's very easy just to put in a prompt and get an app, but have we asked the right questions up front? Have we really clarified the business requirements? Have we really looked at the data model and ascertained that it's got the right structure? It's got the right, you know, one-to-many relationships in there, that we've got the right fields within each of the tables. I guess one of the biggest things that I see going into clients is often now very rarely get to work in a greenfield environment. Even if it's a complete replacement of a legacy CRM system, the chances are there are 1,000,001 other integrations to other platforms out there. We're not going in and just building a single standalone application in a greenfield environment. We've often got to factor that in, that all this other tech is already out there. And I think these tools, whilst I say, you know, they can build a nice quick demo, has it considered that, you know, in my travel request example, you know, should the person traveling come from the Dataverse users table, or should it come from an HR application? You know, should we consider the expenses procedures and things like that? So there's always going to be these other things that go in there. I've seen some chat already going on in the meeting chat actually around sort of security and governance, and that I think is a massive topic when it comes to these tools. Not just, you know, the quality and the security of the app that's being built, but like, how do you govern this stuff once it gets out there? You know, who's gonna support it? Is there there wasn't like a support agent when I built this thing. That person, that you know, agent doesn't exist yet. So is there going to be a support agent who can maintain this app going forward, or do we need to hand over something that's been built using generative pages or vibe.powerapps.com? Do we have to document what it's doing and hand that over to the support team? And then does the support team use AI to help support the app, or do they have to know what's been built by AI itself and then support it? So yeah, there's a whole raft of different questions there, I think, that we need to get our heads around. I think in terms of our roles, it's always been the case that, you know, as Power Platform consultants, architects, developers, we always add value by asking the right questions up front, understanding what the requirements really are. Working, you know, challenging the client maybe in terms of what their requirements are, working out if we've got the right data models, working out how we're going to, you know, integrate this stuff. So that remains. To Neil's point around sort of soft skills, I think we're a long way off the tools that we're seeing at the moment being able to take that away. Okay. And then just the other thing, I've seen a few bits in the chat as well around sort of, you know, governance, ALM, things like that. There is an element of this that, because these tools allow you to interact in natural language and build stuff very quickly, I think we do run, I'd say, a risk and an opportunity. I like to sort of see it the positive way, that more and more apps will get built. Now, nobody really likes doing the cleanup work, to be honest, and, you know, I'd much rather build a new app myself than go and fix somebody else's app. No developer likes another developer's code, right? But I think these tools do bring a lot to the platform, in as much as we should get a lot more adoption. We should get people wanting to build stuff. Might be some challenges there to say, okay, let's rein it back in a little bit and design the data model properly with you, etc., etc. But I think there will be a lot of opportunities to basically just, yeah, implement ALM, enhancements to existing apps, governance procedures, things like that. So there's lots of opportunities out there as well. And in a way, more Power Apps, more Power Automate flows, that's only going to generate, dare I say, more work for us, which I think is a good thing. Just last couple of slides just to run through here. This is a project. Now, it's purely hypothetical. It's just for illustrative purposes. So I put on the bottom there, no project managers were harmed or even consulted in the creation of this slide. Okay. For my sins, I used to be a project manager as well. So I'm sort of cringing even presenting this slide, but this is what a project might look like today. Okay, so we go and get some requirements, we do a bit of building, hopefully we test it, we then move into deploying, and we go into a user acceptance test, training, go live, etc. Okay, what does that look like in the future? Well, I think there are lots of opportunities to be using the tools that we've seen tonight and things like Copilot as we go through it. So as Neil mentioned, you know, we can use Copilot or Gen AI tools to help us capture the requirements in the first place. Okay, we can then move on and start using things like Plan Designer to come up with the data model, to come up with, you know, example processes. They might not be right. We still need to consult with the client and validate the requirements, but we can use them to accelerate what we're doing, make sure we're not missing anything out. As we go through the rest of the process, you know, there's things like Dataverse MCP, Model Context Protocol, where you can start doing things like generating test data, even deploying things using natural language. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I think, as we go through that project life cycle of using these tools to accelerate what we're doing and potentially get better outcomes. Last thing I'll leave you with is just a sort of playbook. Again, these are just my ideas. Love to hear your ideas as well. But in terms of making sure that we all stay, you know, current and up to date, my suggestions are these: have a look at these AI tools, make sure you know what they can and can't do, because as Neil described, there are limitations, there are limits in place. Keep an eye on it, keep up to date, become expert if we can in things like plans, generative pages, vibe.powerapps.com. I'm still a little bit lost, to be honest, in terms of, you know, plans, generative pages, were they last year and vibe.powerapps.com is this year, and actually just focus on that. So there's definitely a bit of a journey going on in terms of Microsoft, but keep an eye on it. Yeah, get familiar with all the tools, keep up to date, but also keep all those soft skills up to date as well. So requirements capture, refinement, consulting with the clients. And then last but not least, everybody gets a new team. So get to know your new team members, find out what they can do, learn about their strengths, learn about their weaknesses. I think that'll help us going forward. Yeah, I think that's us now. So happy to take any quick questions, conscious of time. We might have gone slightly over. So
good stuff.
Yeah, we'll reply to any questions in the chat, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. Cool. You know, we did moderate as we went along. There's a lot of great questions and great feedback. I did love all the questions you asked along the way, so we could all chip in as we went along. But yeah, as the guys say, in the interest of time, if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to Neil and Adrian. Absolutely brilliant session. Thank you both. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So we'd normally hand over straight away to our next presenter, and we're really looking forward to this one. But just in the interest of time, we know not everyone can stay until the end of these events. So we're thinking we'll do the high five photo a little earlier. So if everyone's available to come onto their cameras, I'll get ready and take a screenshot of us all. Again, we'd normally wait till the end for this one, but we know sometimes people have got other commitments, need to leave a little early. Here we go. Great stuff. Great. Okay, this is a lot of people. This is looking good. Fantastic. Great. Any more for any more? And I'll get ready for it. Fantastic. Okay, so if you hold that pose, I'm going to count down to 3, and we'll take it from there. 3, 2, 1. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. I got a good shot there. That's brilliant. It's wonderful to see so many people from all over the world joining us as well. We really appreciate the support. Thanks so much. There we go. Make sure I save that so I don't lose it, because otherwise I'll get told off by Sarah. There we go. So nice one. Okay, well, thanks again, Neil and Adrian. That was absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I know he's in charge. Come on, I'm not messing about. But yeah, what we got next, we've got a fantastic new speaker that we've been really looking forward to this. So please, as usual, show a lot of love for this new speaker. It's very brave to get out there and speak for the first time. Many of us help in the community on forums and other things, you know, and speaking publicly is not for everyone. So it's a really big, brave thing. We really appreciate it. So I'd love to introduce Heather O'Grady, co-worker with Neil Rowlands and many other people on the call as well. So again, lots of love and support for Heather. Heather, it's over to you. Best of luck.
Thanks very much, Keith. I'm just going to share my screen now, and let me know if you can see that okay.
Yep, looking fine. Perfect.
Hey, well, hello everyone, and thank you very much for having me this evening. I'm Heather, and I'm here to share how I went from working as a midwife to working as a Dynamics developer within 2 years. And I'm going to mention some of the resources that made that possible as well. Okay, so let's move on to a quick introduction. So I'm a Dynamics developer at the Intellectual Property Office. And before that, I was a midwife for about 10 years within the NHS and also within the private sector. And I'm also a Code First Girls graduate and now coach others through their tech transitions. And this week actually marks exactly 2 years since I started my first tech role with the IPO. So it's very exciting, really, to be here presenting tonight within those 2 years.
Awesome.
So here's a little bit of an agenda as to what I'm going to be covering this evening. So I'll talk you through my midwifery background, what I used to do, and how I started to explore tech on my own. I'm then going to talk a little bit about Code First Girls and how everything changed after I learned about them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where I am now and some lessons that I learned along the way. And then I'll finish with some practical resources. And I'm sure that these slides can be shared afterwards if anybody wants them. So I'm more than happy to share them afterwards as well. So let me take you back. I trained as a midwife, got my degree in midwifery sciences, and spent a decade in a career that I really loved and enjoyed. But working through the COVID pandemic kind of changed things for a lot of us in healthcare, I think, not just me. And the burnout was very real. And I started to think about kind of what I could do to improve my work-life balance and to change things for myself a little bit. I had zero coding experience, no tech background, just a curiosity to learn something new and a little bit of determination as well. And that's where it kind of came from. So my first steps were small. I downloaded the Mimo app, which I'm not sure, maybe I'll ask if anybody has heard of it. Give a thumbs up and we can see if people are aware of it. Ali, you're aware of it already. So it's a really handy little app that you can go in and do coding exercises on while you're on the move. So I used to do it on the train journey to work actually. And I tried various free online courses looking at a broad range of coding languages as well. I didn't have a plan at this stage. I was just exploring what a career would look like and whether it was something that interested me. But the small steps all planted a seed for what came next. So then I found Code First Girls, and that's kind of where everything changed for me. So has anyone heard of Code First Girls before? Would we like to use some emojis or put some messages maybe into the chat and let us know like where you've heard of them from, if you know anybody that's done any training through them, anything like that. We have had a few reactions as well, so I'll keep an eye out on the chat. But for anybody who hasn't heard of Code First Girls, they offer completely free coding education for women and non-binary people. They've got Kickstarter courses, which are 8 weeks long, and they're part-time and they're perfect for when you're still working full-time to just explore a little bit of coding. And then they offer the CFG degree as well. CFG degree is a 16-week bootcamp. It's much more intensive and often sponsored by companies who are actively hiring. I think this organization, Code First Girls, really changes lives. It's changed my life a lot. I know Laura is also on the call and has done the Code First Girls degree. So you know, there's a lot of people that are impacted by it within my organization. Okay, so here's my CFG journey and what it sort of looked like. So in 2023, I completed 3 Kickstarter courses. So initially, I looked at Introduction to Python and Apps, and then moved on to Introduction to Web Development. Following on from that, I looked at Data and SQL. So they were all kind of 8-week Kickstarter courses, and they're suitable for beginners, and they kind of let me touch my toe into the topics and figure out what it was that I was really interested in. Then I applied for the CFG degree, and I was accepted. So in September through to December 2023, I was doing the bootcamp, which was a full stack pathway, and that was sponsored by the IPO. Now, that degree did come with a job at the end, so I was offered a job as an apprentice Dynamics developer starting the February after I completed it, and that was my very first tech role, which was really exciting for me at the time. So fast forward to now, 2 years ago this week, I walked into the IPO for my first day as an apprentice Dynamics developer. By May 2025, I'd secured a permanent position, and in December just gone, I was promoted to Dynamics developer. And now here I am presenting to all of you about my career journey, which I think is a really lovely way to mark the 2 years. And again, if you had told me all those years ago that I would be in this reality right now, I don't think I really would have believed you at all. So it really is one of those moments right now to be presenting here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about transferable skills. So one thing that I learned very quickly is that I didn't arrive into tech empty-handed. When a production issue came in and things felt urgent, I suddenly realized I'd already kind of developed that skill of staying calm under pressure from my midwifery days. Explaining technical requirements to stakeholders felt familiar too. It's not very different from breaking down complex information for families in a way that, can feel like it makes sense to them. And I think whatever background you come from, you'll find skills and you'll realize that you have something to hand that is transferable. So I think it's really important to look at those transferable skills when you're career switching. So why do I love the job that I'm now in as a Dynamics developer? Well, honestly, I really love the problem solving. Every day is really different. And when you're tracking down errors and digging through logs, testing ideas, there's nothing quite like the moment when it all kind of clicks and you think, okay, I've got a fix for that bug, or I've got a solution to that issue. I find that it's very rewarding intellectually as well, in a way that I didn't expect. And I have to say that the work-life balance compared to my previous career is so much different. I couldn't have imagined it a few years ago where I'd be right now, completely different. And I also think communities like this one, so supportive people who genuinely want to help you succeed and see you do really well, has made a massive difference as well. So I've got 2 lessons that I wanted to share that I've learned along the way on my journey. And the first one is about imposter syndrome. And I wanted to see if anybody has experienced imposter syndrome previously. I'm sure we will have quite a few thumbs up or reactions here because it is a very common thing. So let's see how many people have experienced it. And there are quite a few thumbs up. And I'm seeing some comments in the chat say 100% always, every day. So it's something that we've all experienced. And I think imposter syndrome is real, and it doesn't disappear once you get a job or a promotion or whatever you're aiming towards. And I still have days where I think that everybody's going to realize that I don't know what I'm doing or something like that. It's kind of there in your mind. I really think that what helps me overcome it, though, is to track your wins, even if they're small. Remind yourself that not knowing yet isn't the same as not belonging in a team. And honestly, talking to colleagues and friends about it and just identifying it and saying, it's there, can really be helpful as well. And secondly, so this is the other thing that I kind of found throughout the career switch journey, was saying yes to everything until you find your niche. I did courses in Python, web development, SQL, not because I had this master plan and I knew exactly what I was going to do, but because I wanted to see what clicked with me the most. And I feel like that's been really helpful, kind of throwing myself into things. And you then figure out what it is that you really enjoy, and eventually you'll find your niche and you'll fit in there and you'll continue to work there. So I want to leave you with some practical resources, because that's what really helped me when I completed my career switch. So everything on this slide is free. Code First Girls, if you're a woman or non-binary, I would advise you to apply if you're thinking about getting into coding. We talked about the Mimo app for the commute, and we had a couple of thumbs up from people that know about that already, which is great. W3 Schools, which I did see somebody mention in the chat as well as an amazing resource. See, I can't spot it right now, but I will come back to who mentioned that. And then we've got Code Academy for exploring different topics. Front End Mentor and LeetCode, I use these for real world challenges. And since I've gotten into my role as a Dynamics developer, from being an apprentice and being a junior Dynamics developer and then moving up to Dynamics developer, Microsoft Learn is something that I've used a lot of for those Power Platform certifications. So your PL 900s, your applied skills, your PL 200s, it's a really useful resource to kind of study those as well. And I would say use them shamelessly. They're all free and they're all available to us. So if we, want to learn, they're there for us, and that's what they're there for. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up, or start to wrap up. And to wrap up, I want to just say, I think that, starting small is really important. Using those free resources. Don't dismiss those existing skills that you already have, those transferable skills that we kind of talk about, and expect to find imposter syndrome, but don't let it win. Talk to people about it, and say yes when it feels scary and you're unsure about things. Put yourself out there and kind of say, I'm really going to take on this challenge and I'm really going to push myself to try. And 3 years ago, I was a burned out midwife and I was, looking for a new career. And so I feel if I'm able to make that career switch, I think others can as well. I'm a Dynamics developer today and presenting here to all of you. So the path does exist, and you can walk it too if you want to. Or you can walk another path, another career journey path that you feel is something that interests you. So it's never too late to kind of switch over. So thank you very much for your time. I really have loved presenting to this community, and I'd love to answer any questions. So feel free to pop questions in the chat or pop your hand up, and whichever is most comfortable for you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you yourself are considering a career change, or you know anybody that is considering a career change, then my messages are open. So feel free to get in touch with me. And thank you everyone again. Have we got any questions?
Well, there's a lot of love in the chat, Heather. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Comments coming in. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
lots of very kind words, and really it was an absolutely brilliant presentation. To say that's your first one, again, we talk about imposter syndrome. I can get that when I see a new speaker do an absolutely amazing job like that. So fantastic, very good, well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
And I can't tell you enough how important that topic is, and we didn't give you long enough there, Heather, so I'm going to be on your case now to come back and do a full session.
Me too.
So you can help people even more.
No problem at all. I'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely will, for sure. But yeah, there's no questions there. Again, like everyone else, if you do have anything, please do reach out to Heather. I'm sure, like any of us, would love to help and share that knowledge. And congrats on the anniversary, Heather. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, well, we are ready for our next session, next full-length session. So I will have a quick check what the speaker names. Here we go. Sarah Jones and Franco Musso. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Okay, I'm messing around. It's great to have them back. It sounds a really interesting session, and it's great to have you both speaking with us again. So this is Extra Life, Next Level. I'll pass over to you, Sarah and Franco. All the best. Take it away.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, there's no struggle of power here in this relationship whatsoever at High Fives.
No comment.
Franco's in charge of the slides for this one, so I'll let you lead the way.
Yeah, and I think if anyone needs an extra push about getting bold and taking the next step, should listen to Heather. I love the quote there that say yes even when it feels scary. Quality session. So Extra Life, if you're wondering what that's about, is a freelance course that me and Sarah have written on the back of how many people in the community are asking us, how do I get in a position where I can freelance, where I've got that career insurance, where I could take the leap if I was let go by my current employer, if I want to just seek out all the benefits that will go over, like free up your year, that lead into the bits that really energize you and not be stuck in the meetings and stuff the whole time. And what we've got in there, just as a heads up before we get into the meat of tonight's session, if anyone's interested, we've got tons of on-demand video in there. We've got newsletter, community calls, and a lot of exclusive interviews from other freelancers, because one of the objections we got early on that everyone kept secretly asking Sarah behind the scenes is Franco just a fluke? Could anybody kind of follow this system and become a freelancer? So we're trying to kind of dispel that myth. It's not just me.
That's a really good slide, Franco. I didn't know you'd done that. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have many hidden talents. And we thought, as a favour to High Five, because we love High Five, obviously Sarah's half of High Five, and I've been involved from the start, that we're going to throw in, we were going to do a slight discount. Instead, we're going to throw in an hour's worth of coaching. It's actually not going to be 1-to-1, it's going to be 2-to-1. You'll get both me and Sarah for an hour, which, you know, I'd like to think has got quite a serious monetary value. So by all means, throw that in there. So use that QR code to get to the page, and use High Five, all one word, to redeem an hour's coaching session. And also a bit of feedback from the audience, those that are just on the fence and not sure whether they are going to take the leap soon. We've gone away from just a one-off price to you can now join at 35 quid a month. Right, so let's jump into the actual content then. Is there anyone in the audience that is a contractor? If you want to just raise your hands. Heavy hitting contractors as well there, recognise some names. Anyone that's already freelance? Nice. And anyone that is neither of the above but already creating content? Oh, I think I've heard of Mr. Atherton, actually. Anyone that already delivers at user groups, conferences? Yeah, so we're all on our way in one way, shape, or another. So I say, good news is when AI continues to take everything over, you're going to be in a real good place. So something that me and Sarah are hearing quite often is that there's going to be a transition in the careers market, not just specifically for freelance, where instead of having one long career, it's going to be lots of mini careers, project-based stuff, much more like what a contractor would do than a permanent employee. And the skills to actually attract those clients, to sell yourself, to persuade the client of the value you deliver, the impact that you have, the business value that you deliver, is going to be super valuable and necessary skills to have. But I'll go over this quite quickly in case anyone's heard it already. But a question we're asked early and often is, what's the difference between contracting and freelance? So my own qualified opinion is that the positives if you're contracting is that you do typically get a higher income than permanent work, although that gap has closed quite a bit in the last couple of years. You do get the chance to cherry pick projects. So when you're working for a big partner, you don't often get a lot of say, well, I'll take this one, leave that one. That one sounds like hard work. Yeah, I'll touch this. Continues to work on what feels exciting. You do get to specialize. So I focused in on Power Pages long before I became a freelancer. I really had the chance to see that, in fact, yeah, there's enough demand here. I'm seen as differentiated enough and my skills unique enough that that would be viable. Do get to stay on the latest and greatest. So I've got some great friends that have been at end clients for so long. Unfortunately, their skills really have become quite stale compared to if they were in the contract market. It would be every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. There's a brand new project for you. The negatives, as I found them, is it's still very much Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 for one client at a time. And almost always for me on contract projects, it was in a firefighting capacity. Look, we've already tried it. Now we're up against it. We've got fires left, right, and centre that we need putting out. Come and fix them. So it's always a high stress engagement. And then you've got pains compared to permanent work, like you've got company admin, IR35, taxman on your case. What I would say though is contracting can be a really good transition into freelancing. So I would say treat it like a paid apprenticeship. So you get used to dealing with clients, persuading them of value, of negotiating, but you've got the benefit that an agent is going to take care of a big chunk of your year of work at a time. So you can quite quickly rack up 5, 10 repeat customers. And if you do a great job, you treat that like it's your probation, then you're going to get the repeat work and you're going to want people, you're going to have people referring you and asking you, how can you continue to engage after the project's complete? You get the chance to niche down. So I started focusing only on contracts at Power Pages, for example, and you can build some assets. So things like my code snippet library and libraries of email templates and stuff I was building while I was on contract, to get to do that at someone else's cost. So that's looking like it's frozen to me. I'll persist anyway. So freelancing, the difference is positives are lifestyle. So for example, I get to take 5 months off in a year. I get to design my work week, my work seasons around my life. There's unlimited upside, so I'm not tied to that daily rate times however many days I want to work. I can scale things up. I'm not affected by market forces so much. So, for example, in the financial downturn, didn't see any slowdown in income or in the work market. And business development gets easier and easier by the year. So I find that the compounding effect of what I put out there in the world, more referrals, more repeat business, more people finding me on LinkedIn and through my old content, it just gets easier and easier. So now I'm in a position where I'm turning down work and only cherry picking the projects that I want to work on. What can be the negatives, which we'll try and steer you around on this call, is the time it takes you to get some traction, find some clients, and the workload can be very much feast or famine. So everybody wants you all at once, but you can only do so many things. And then when you finish your project, if you're not keeping an eye on the horizon and keeping your pipeline busy, then you can find yourself struggling to find work. So there's something that we train you around on the course. So what's stopping you from going freelance? Some things that we hear quite often is maybe it's just not the right time yet. So you are genuinely considering it for the longer term. Maybe you feel that you need more savings behind you before you take the leap. You're worried where clients are going to come from. So you're totally confident that you can deliver, but to whom and how are you going to get those deals created? And are you good enough in terms of, do you consider yourself expert enough just yet? Again, all things that we tackle on the course. And one thing we do early is help you define your niche. So your goal is to be on people's lips when they think of a certain technology or a particular result, they're thinking of you immediately. For me, that's Power Pages that look good. So I would say being expert enough to be hired in as a freelancer or as a contractor is the bar is, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but the bar is lower than you think. So if you can answer yes to the following, that you've delivered this once before, ideally for a similar client, that you know what works, you know what the pitfalls are that and how to avoid them. And then you've got a proven path to get from A to Z. So that might be, look, I know what the project plan should be. I know what the milestones are. I've got the stamina to see us through this. And I know the, let's say, the A to Z. That is enough. That is enough to say, right, I've answered these questions, whether that's in a contracting interview or a freelancing interview. Yes, you've got the job, because that's going to give us a lot of reassurance versus trying to do that internally. And I know I'm going to save them a lot of time and money as well, in having done this before. So my business, I work with 3 to 5 clients at any one time. Do kind of preach that as an approach, to have multiple clients so that you've not got all your eggs in one basket. Projects range from new builds to repeat customers and ongoing maintenance. So that does become a bit of a flywheel. So the longer you do this, the more it becomes easier, not just business development, but keeping your entire pipeline busy. And you're not starting the subsequent years with, where's all the money coming from? You've got some coming in from ongoing maintenance. You've got some repeat work already in the pipeline. You've got referrals that are likely to come into fruition. My rate's £1,000 a day, which is not far from the contract market for specialists in Power Pages. But where the real power comes in, the multiplier here, I break through that ceiling of what I could earn by delivering multiple working days in one calendar day. So I'm working smarter. Sometimes I can get a day's work done in an hour, or in half a day, quarter of a day, whatever that might be. Or I might get the whole week's worth of work done in a day and a bit, and it just allows me a lot more flexibility than contracting, which I said was still very much Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I guard my time relentlessly, and I will build tools that multiply my productivity. It's all about the concept of productivity equals profit, and I'll show you a lot of ways on the course that we can design around that. And where does my business come from? Majority is LinkedIn, but it's all in one way or another through content marketing, community events, some direct referrals from Microsoft and previous clients. But the key thing is that work finds me. I attract the work, or sorry, my content attracts the work without me having to go out and chase it and do cold calls and that kind of thing. So I'll skip over this, and just kind of the key is life's freaking awesome. I take the summers off, travel around the world, got time and location freedom, and I'd say I'm stuck in meetings less than anyone else that I know. Something else that I think's been a surprise to others is that the projects don't need to be huge either. So I think we work in a kind of space where all the projects are valuable enough, but it's not like I'm chasing multi-million-pound projects all the time. They don't have to be high profile. A sweet spot can often be like a 20 to 30k project, because I can do one or more of those in a month. It's small. It's a lean enough project that there's not loads of bureaucracy and bloat and having to chase people for decisions. So what was so life-changing for me was going deep on one product. So that was Power Pages for me, and even further, the discipline of UI and UX. So Power Pages that look good. I do the entire project, but that is my differentiator. Building in public is what got me on people's radar for that. So what got me on the MVP's radar, what got me known by Microsoft. So again, it's something we teach in the course. Build a hero project, share it in public, have something that you can demo on interviews or in pitches, rather than just, say, here's my CV, sorry, all my work's kind of NDA, or look behind a login wall or something like that. A massive one for me was going asynchronous and breaking away from that Monday to Friday 9 to 5. So one intentional thing I had to do there is not keep volunteering to be in workshops, for example. The less I was live one-to-one with the client, the more I could scale up how much work I can do in an hour a day, a month, versus like I'm just real time with one client. So there's no way, for example, if I'm just delivering a workshop, that I can simultaneously deliver 3 workshops for 3 different clients. Whereas when I'm on the dev work, when I'm doing design work, I can scale that up and be more optimal with my time, more efficient with my time than what I would be delivering live. Learn what the unique value is that you add. So maybe if you think back to the last projects that you were on, if you weren't there, what is it that's missing? So someone else is filling the exact same job role. What is that unique special sauce that you've got that no one else can deliver? That's really what you want to lean into. And also learn which deliverables it is that customers value the most. So I often find, for example, when I quote for a certain number of days of training, customers seem to value that a lot less than when I'm doing the development work or writing requirements for the Power Pages projects, because they're not really seeing that as my unique value add. So again, it's just keeping in mind which bits should be the headlines, which ones should take your focus, and which ones can just be either delegated or shared or treated a different way. But the key things that we cover in the first modules of the course is how you become magnetic. So building your personal brand, using content marketing intentionally to attract that work to you, and leveraging the community. Really, that is all that I've done. I've never had to do paid ads or cold outreach or anything like that. So very quickly take you through the framework, and then we're going to share after this a link to upcoming webinar. We're going into more detail on this if anyone's interested. So the number one objection we get is, where will the clients come from? So that's something we lean into big time on the course. So personal branding and content marketing is what it's all about, but we'll treat it, as I say, in a very intentional way. So we're not just saying, here's some content for other developers that is going to help them either show off how good I am or help them be a bit quicker. It's creating content that communicates some business value and says why you should do business with me. What's that big outcome impact that your business is going to get? So I would say, again, get known for one thing, niche down, whether that's one technology within Power Platform or especially one particular result. So it might be that's Power Pages and insurance, or it might be Power Automate and finance. You lean right into that. And it's so much easier then that when somebody thinks of that result that you deliver, your name immediately springs to mind. Building public, create that hero project, and consistent high quality content is key. Demonstrate what's the business value of what you're achieving as well. So chip away at the so what. So not just this is the feature, this is what it enables, and this is the KPI that it helps you hit. It was this percentage increase in customer retention, this percentage increase in profit or in cost saving, in decrease in headcount, whatever that might be. So something that took me a long time to realize, it's how clients hire in the real world. So the best projects typically go to somebody that is within that hiring manager or that hiring client's network. So who do I already know that knows how to do this? So for example, I'll call Franco for the Power Pages project. We know he can do that. We'll call Keith for Canvas Apps expertise. Then perhaps you'll spread the net a bit further. If you don't find anyone in your first level network, you're thinking, who do my people know? So Franco doesn't focus on Power BI, for example, but who might Franco know? Who might our CTO or our existing Canvas Apps person know? So again, it's the power of the network. And then finally, it's the whole market, who's available online. So then maybe you're looking on job boards, Google, that kind of thing. Really, you've got the most negotiating power here and the least competition. By the time we've gone to the whole market, really, you could be competing against hundreds or thousands of other providers. Whereas here, where you've got that one referral, that recommendation, you're barely going to have to negotiate or do any persuading as why it should be you versus someone else. You're bringing all that, or the value of that relationship, or that pre-built trust. So just keep in mind that lots of the best opportunities are gone by the time they reach the market and a job ad goes out. So your mission is to get hired before it ever hits the market. Again, you're not having to negotiate or pitch yourself. Having that network level access is just invaluable. It's gold. And that's why the best freelancers don't have to pitch. None of us particularly like selling. When the selling's done for you, when it's been your content's already persuading someone, you're the person that should be doing this work, you're the one that can get them that result, you've won. We've got so much more to get into and plenty more that we cover on the course. So we're going to do the follow-up webinar just with time in mind. If we cut off there, should we take a few questions quickly?
Great stuff. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to put their hands up. There is a good one I saw in the chat there, folks, from Shamim. Franco, do you get to see projects through end to end, or do you find you're brought in to do a specific part of it and then move on to your next project?
Yeah, good question. So I found actually as a contractor, I was getting to see less of the end to end because I think it was much more cost focused and it was me slotting into a wider team. Whereas since I've gone freelance, it's almost always end to end. I'd say the only ones that aren't end to end is I'll occasionally have to, I'll just be engaged for a pre-sales project. So they want to prove out, is this technology right? Can it, usually, which works well in my favor, usually the objection is IT love it, marketing hate it. Does it have to look as god awful as Microsoft's examples? So they engage me for X number of days or X number of weeks to build a proof of concept, but it's then for their internal team to build after maybe some handover training. A good question from Joe. Do I stand firm on my daily rate? Absolutely, yeah. And there are points in the course where we cover how else you can negotiate. So part of, if you think what might be in mind for daily rate is, do we want to pay £1,000 a day for Franco when we can get a generalist Power Platform developer for 400, 500? I'd be then saying, well, things like they've not delivered that that result before. I've got all these examples I can show that you're not paying me for guesswork to learn on the job or anything like that. My productivity is going to be, 3-5x what theirs is. So it's the wrong metric and just on a daily rate. But also I've got enough demand now that it's just, and then in fact, another one would be competing on quality. So it would be again leaning into UX and UI, that customer experience. How's that going to set you apart versus here's a cheaper project that IT built? But yeah, there as I said, there are a good couple of slides and handouts on the course that are just about how do you negotiate other than based on price. Emma, do I ever get imposter syndrome? Certainly not now I've specialized, so that does help, no doubt. Because you imagine I'm competing against a much smaller pool of competitors. When I was, say, a generalist functional consultant, then I wouldn't say it was imposter syndrome as much, but I really would struggle for, why me? What is it that I do better than anybody else? And I have to clutch at straws a little bit. And then it was ironically more, well, I can also help with your training. I do really good documentation. I'm good with stakeholders, but I can kind of get my hands dirty behind the scenes. But yeah, I think if I was starting out and I did have the imposter syndrome, I'd definitely be leaning into Dan Barber's content. I'd highly recommend that to anyone else. His imposter syndrome session and his imposter syndrome ally with AI is fantastic as well. Definitely check that out. But in fact, sorry, and I would say the cure to that should be, don't overthink the imposter syndrome. If you go back to our slide from before, it's, have you done this before? Have you achieved this result for a similar client? Have you got a proven path for doing it? That is all, honestly. But I've interviewed for tens of contracts, always got them, and it was pretty much those questions. Have you done this before? Do you understand the challenges of our industry? So that's why I'm saying, if you can do it for a similar client, yes, I've done it for this other finance client, I've done it for this other insurance client, I've done it for this other leisure client. Then it comes much more about when can you start versus how much do you charge?
And it's getting in there as well at that point before it's advertised. Makes that bit
yeah, great
easier.
point as well. Yeah, because you get to the point where you're getting the recommendation. Again, it's another reason not to feel like an imposter, but also then it's not going to be right, Dragon Den kind of style, you against 10 other people that are pitching today. It's pretty much going to be, are you available? And are you vaguely within the price range that we expect? Yes, you've got the job. And in fact, another one that I've used quite often on the negotiating side is the engagement style. So if we know that they've got a challenge budget wise, it'll be, well, don't use me Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I can do it alongside other projects. So you can use the same budget, but that gets you 2 or 3 days a week rather than the 5 days a week. Or so we've got done with you, done for you, or we've got training only. So there's a few other levers that we can pull there as well. Question from Matthew, at what point would we advise moving from 9 to 5 to contracting? I would say, again, once you can tick all those boxes, have you delivered this before? So on the expert enough slide, have you delivered this result before, ideally for a similar client? And have you got a proven path to get from A to Z? Once you're confident with that, and it's not guesswork and having to train on the job, absolutely jump in and do that. But I think as what you mentioned, finance as an example there. Yeah, I think even more powerful than niche, besides just saying here's a Power Platform product, is tying that with either a specific industry or a specific discipline. So it's maybe Power BI with amazing visuals, Power Pages with great UX. It might be Power Automate and performance. If you think the mega savings you can achieve if you've got optimized flows versus not. And then you can even maybe have an ROI kind of discussion, right? So I want to charge you based on return on investment rather than just days and hours spent. So there's another thing that we discuss on the course of different charging models there might be. And again, something that me and Sarah are hearing a lot from the community, from the CTOs and everyone that Sarah's connected with, is this idea of charging per day, per hour versus charging for value or a result is going to be a thing of the past.
I think so. It's interesting that there's a lot of people talking about how their productivity is increased. That is going to be what leans into that change of payment model and charging model, because if you're invested in tools and the most effective tools are going to cost more money, then why should your rate stay the same? There's loads of arguments to charge in a different model. Franco's kind of already mastered that. And again, we've not got around to doing all the sides, have we? There's the kind of asynchronous working and different ways of negotiating around your rates as well. If the customer hasn't got the money, there's other ways that you can work with them. But we're going to follow up on this with a webinar. So if there's anyone that is really interested in the freelancing side of things and ways of working, that's a good place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final question. So any challenges that I've faced in terms of GDPR or data privacy? And no, there hasn't. So the only pain point that I've experienced anything like that, I think similar to what Keith said, is when a client advises you need to use their laptop. I don't often have to do it, but yeah, that some clients still insist. But yeah, one of my snobby, nerdy benefits of being freelancers, I almost always get to use my chosen MacBook. But yeah, that's all idea of ring fencing it for that client. And in fact, I would say actually, not necessarily about GDPR, but related to compliance, one kind of strange benefit I never saw coming was originally when I was pitching Power Pages, it was me Power Pages. I'm thinking I'm up against any other Power Pages freelancer in the world. But for UK projects, actually, more often than not, I was only competing against Power Pages providers in the UK. So because of data sovereignty, no one wanted to outsource to India, to the US or whatever, or even to the EU. It was just like, we need someone on UK soil. So we can keep that warm, fuzzy feeling that the data is going to stay in the UK. So actually, yeah, a constraint worked in my favour for once rather than against.
Shall we wrap it up there then? Like we said, we try and be on time. We're 10 minutes over. I know I was presenting with Franco, but we wanted to get through that slide deck quickly, and we got about halfway through, I think, in the end. So, yeah, thank you for covering that. Heather, that was amazing for your first session. Dying to hear more. I've seen loads of chat around you getting involved in other things already, so watch out, because I think you're going to start getting busy with community work inside and outside of your organisation. And of course, Adrian and Neil, thank you so much. That was a brilliant session as well at the start. Hopefully see that one in person at some point over the conference season. And Keith, thank you for being Chief Diva at Power Platform Community High Fives and remembering to take the photo. Tech support, always.
And if I can just add, awesome to see so many friends, extra life clients, coaching clients in the audience.
Yeah,
freaking love community high five.
Awesome. Great session. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Franco. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, Adrian, Neil, just as Sarah said, echo that. It's great. And yep, Heather, this is where things start. So yeah, good things, good onwards and upwards for sure.
Right.
Great. Okay. Well, I think we've only slightly overrun, so we're doing pretty good. But Sarah, anything else to cover? Or we all good?
No, not at all. Just thank you to everybody who's come and support us now and at other events, anybody who watches them back. We appreciate it, and we'll keep on doing it as long as people come. Keith and I have been trying to catch up for about a month to discuss the schedule for the rest of 2026. So we are still open to speakers. Particularly enjoy the new speaker support section that we've got. There's a couple of faces here that I think might get involved. Ed, we had you a couple of weeks ago. That was amazing. So yeah, please do get in touch with us if you would like to talk about speaking here. We're nicer than the banter that you see. And Franco's just put the user code in the chat for anyone who's interested in the Extra Life course. But no, that's it, I think. It's a great evening, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Really appreciate you spending your time with us, your support as well. So the next event's provisionally Tuesday, the 3rd of March. We always try and aim for the first Tuesday of every month. But follow our LinkedIn page. We'll share all details there and keep everyone updated that way as well. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
See you all soon.